turning around because I just heard a sandhill crane, and they're migrating now. That little, you may hear them in a minute.
That's a beautiful sight.
My father ranched here until 2002, following a traditional continuous grazing practice. He ran cattle on 19 pastures, full-time, year-round. And when he passed on, my generation took over the ranch. And we decided to try a couple of different things. The first thing that I was interested in was the concept of planned rotational grazing. We have 31 pastures now, and we have only one herd instead of 19 herds. By moving the animals across the landscape at very short duration intervals, what you're working with is time. It means we can rest any single pasture from at least 6 months to a year to even more. They take one bite and they're off.
I was almost not willing to try it. You know, I just said, you know what? I can't take a college boy coming over here with a baseball cap and a pair of tennis shoes telling me what I've done here all my life to move cattle here and do this and that. I said, I don't know if I can do that. And I grew up in an area where holistic ranch management came in, and when they got to the end, they had no grass to go. So it left a very sorry taste in their mouths. There's still people around said, you're crazy, it never works.
Not that many ranchers in our area have done this, but it seemed worth a try. And it was an experiment to begin with. But what we heard and what we have seen have been absolutely remarkable benefits for us.
I almost didn't want to admit that I was seeing the difference, but then I began to realize that condition of the cattle were changing. Flies, the 22-day cycle was breaking, and my medicine bill is probably 10% of what an average ranch would be. So I don't know if we could have done anything better. When you got grass belly high, cattle don't have to work too hard to get it, you know.
Within 3 years of changing to this new practice, we found an incredible difference in our grasslands.
We went from 3 or 4 basic types of grasses.
And now we have counted over 45, which is pretty amazing to imagine that that seed bank was here.
Look at all the western wheat coming under that tree. This right here is a cool season grass called western wheatgrass, and you can see a lot more abundance here. If we had continuous grazing, we would not have that.
Actually, people said there were no cool season grasses in this part of the world.
We didn't have any for 30 years until we started rotational grazing.
And then with the opportunity, if they're not bitten off regularly and repeatedly, they have a chance to grow, and here they are.
Because of the presence of cool season grasses, we're not nearly as dependent on the supplement. Before we went on the rotational grazing program, our feed bill was about $60,000 a year, and it's dropped down 2/3 from that. But a huge difference in the two sides. And the neighbor to the left does conventional grazing, where it grazes cattle all year round without any rotating or resting periods in between. If you really get down and look at the variety of grasses, they're just not as healthy as they could be or should be. I don't see any cool season grasses at all.
And we have broomweed, this rounded plant with the small yellow flowers. That's generally indicative of a poorer soil.
You can also feel a lot of difference in the softness of the ground. It doesn't have as much grass to absorb the water. It's a total different type of soil on the other side. I can't compact this soil, even though we're 100 feet away. But in our pasture, because that density of grass is holding the moisture so well, the root system's deep, and that moisture's holding into the roots, the ground just feels so much softer. See the way it balls up? This is a sandy, loamy soil, but it's still holding together very, very well.
They have some grass growth because of this good season we've had, but I don't think that they have the density and the stands of it that we have that we know will hold us for another year.
So the same amount of rain, all that divides it is a fence and an owner and management. In 2011, when we were in such a drought, we cut our herd 50%, which was a dramatic change for us.
We did have to cut our numbers, but many of the surrounding ranchers actually had to sell their whole herds. So we were in better shape. This is wolftail, and it's a grass that we actually hadn't seen until we got deep into the drought in this part of the world. We found that wolftail and galleta were springing up where the blue grama was dying off with the drought. And those two species really kept us going for a whole season.
This was really an eye-opener to me because it's hard enough to recover in a rainy season, and to recover in a drought, in my opinion, was unheard of. And we made a 100% turnaround.
That's really when we were truly convinced that this was working for us. We still had grass that we could use for the couple of years when there was no rain and everybody else was out.
It's amazing. This all happened during the drought.
What I think is exciting about the work that we've been doing is the potential for large-scale land restoration. It's really landscape-scale restoration.
I'd be surprised if you could pick 20 places in the entire state of New Mexico that are as good as this, other than maybe wilderness or something. But private land, it doesn't get much better than this. No, you know, with me being raised under the traditional method, I could never have imagined it be this good. I'd never go back to the traditional method of running cattle. This is so evident that it's worked.